Ignition sequence. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
Today's guest is someone you may know from your screens, but her journey behind the scenes is just as impressive. Samantha Faiers rose to fame in the world of reality TV, but what is truly impressive to me is how she's transformed herself into a powerhouse entrepreneur. So let's find out why she's a lady who launched. Right, before we get into it, if you like this episode, which I know you're going to, please don't forget to like and subscribe and to share it to your group chat. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so excited to sit down and talk to you because I see bits, you know, like we reply to each other's stories and
Yeah.
I see bits on Instagram and I'm loving watching everything play out and really seeing the growth for you as well as Revive now.
Yeah.
And it's been so nice to watch it all play out. I always like to start every interview going back and talking about early life and sort of really finding out about Sam and why the Samantha that we all know looks the way you do now. So what was it like for you growing up? Who was around? Were there any sort of entrepreneurial influences?
So I grew up with my sister and my mum, and we was born and raised in Essex, moved to Spain when my mum met our stepdad. So our stepdad's always kind of been dad to us. Mm-hmm. So we moved to Spain, then back to Essex, back to Spain, back to Essex, sort of a bit of back and forth. And then we had a really nice life. Like, I don't think that we wasn't like super wealthy, but we always had a lovely home. Mm-hmm. My mum kind of raised us on her own when my dad went to prison. That was for a long time as well. So it was just me, my mum, and my sister. Right. So, and we are still now to this day like sisters. We're so close. We do everything together. We speak every single day. We're each other's like support system. But yeah, growing up, I wouldn't say that I had anybody really entrepreneurial around me. My mum was superwoman. She was a stay-at-home mum. My mum didn't actually work until we was teenagers. Right. But she raised us and took good care of us and made sure that we had the best life possible. I was surrounded by a lovely family. I had 3 sets of nan and granddads at the time. Really family orientated, but I wouldn't say there was anybody like significant that was really big in business. We was kind of just like a normal family, really. Like all my nans loved cooking and it was kind of quite humble to a sense.
Quite traditional.
Very, yeah.
Where do you think kind of that real sense of like aspiration comes from?
Okay, so when I went to school, I was a C grade student. I really didn't enjoy school at all. I was there for the social side of it.
Me too.
I used to bunk off. My mum was like the other day, "Did you?" I was like, "Yeah, you went to the races once and I was off all day."
You've got to be careful what we say in interviews now we're older because they're like, "I didn't know that about you."
Did you?
You're like, yeah.
Look, I was a good child. I wasn't naughty or anything, but I just didn't enjoy school that much. I was definitely there for the social side of it. I just wanted my own money. And I had this thing in my head that when I left school, I wanted to go straight to a recruitment agency, which I did. And I can remember the day vividly. I had, you know, that day at the end of school when you bring in the extra shirt and everyone signs it?
Yes.
So that day, and it was half a day, and everyone's throwing flour and all madness. So I left at school. I didn't go to sixth form. So it was, how old are you? 16, I think, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And I got on the train.
After GCSE?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we went to school in Shenfield in Essex. I got on the train at Shenfield and I went to Ilford, where a friend of a friend worked at a recruitment agency. I think it was actually Reed Recruitment at the time. I think it was that. And I went straight from that day because I didn't want to go to sixth form. I didn't want to go to college. I actually didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I knew that I wanted was my own money, and I wanted a Mini One, so like the car. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to start doing my driving lessons next year, and my goal is to have that Mini, and the only way I can get it, because my mum wouldn't have been able to afford it, is to buy it for myself. Anyway, so I went to the recruitment agency and I'd like stuffed like a black jumper in my bag, so I took off that shirt with all the names on it. So I had my grey skirt on, which I definitely knew I was come straight from school, a jumper, and went straight to the recruitment agency, done all, just like filling out forms basically, just look for a job. And a job came up like a couple of weeks, and it was just like an admin job somewhere in Ilford. Yeah. And perfect, fine, got me in the door. It was like probably the most basic wage you could ever probably imagine. But it was like customers facing, speaking to people. I was making teas, I was doing a bit of admin, and I was like, this is it. This is what I wanted to do. And then anyway, a few weeks later, I was like, I need to swap this out. I need to do something a bit better than this. So I applied for a job at the bank. So the bank was, for me, my first proper job. So I worked at Lloyd's TSB and I loved it. So this is pre-TOWIE. So this is like a couple years.
And what was it that you loved about it so much?
I just think I was a cashier. I actually went on to be the fastest cashier in that area. It's so sad, but I was really fast.
No, it's not sad. I love that.
And I remember my big moment when I got the keys to the safe.
Right.
So I would go in early and I had the master key, and it was like the responsibility. And there's people that had been there for years that didn't get the key.
But they trusted you.
But I was keen, and I was just, I guess I just took the role and run with it. And I was willing to learn, and I wanted to work my way up. And I guess at that point, prior to going into the TV industry, I was kind of looking to build my career in banking. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I think I was customer facing at the time. So maybe it's the customers that kind of what I enjoyed. I don't think I really loved the number side of it. I think it was just kind of being...
And probably the growth. Like when you're recognised for performing and doing well and becoming the fastest cashier in the area, getting the keys, and you're getting that trust. And you're like, I'm finding my thing here.
Yeah.
And particularly if you're not engaged with school in that way and you're not performing in the way that everybody wants you to, but here something's really sticking. Yeah. There's probably that kind of that self-gratification a little bit, I
was like, I can do this. Like, I literally left school with hardly any grades, and I've got a better job than all of my friends, and I'm getting a proper solid wage each month. Like, I really felt proud of myself.
Yeah.
I got my mini one. I got my mini, And actually, when you work for companies like that, they're actually like... systems where you can actually get certain things at like a lower rate and on finance and stuff like that. So I found it on this system in the bank, and I was like, I can even get it cheaper. So anyway, that was like, I think, the start of my kind of career in knowing that I wanted to earn my own money and be, probably not at the time a businesswoman, but just, have a great job and, book my own holidays and buy my own clothes.
The independent.
Exactly.
And I suppose this is exactly why I start the interviews in this way, because I always like to find out about the before, because that says so much about you and your character. Like, you wasn't sure, but actually I wanted the mini one and I was going to find a way to get there. And you did. And I think it's constantly having your sights set on something, and whatever that is, you're going to work to make it happen.
And don't you think it's funny that it's not until you get older, like maybe now or in your 30s, you look back and you think that was a really significant moment, saying that I wanted that car, whereas at the time I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah,
I just thought of it as like, I really want that car, but mum can't afford that, so I'm going to have to go to work and get it. When you look back in hindsight, you think actually that is like what we all call now like manifesting.
Yes.
Back then we didn't think that was a manifest.
And it's a real sort of character, like a trait of your character that you... You've got that determination and that ambition and that, that work ethic, that you're going to work towards something that you aspire to have. And we say, like, I'm big on manifesting, like huge on manifesting. But obviously half the sort of argument for manifesting is working towards that, right?
Absolutely.
And it can't happen without the work behind it. So you have this job at the bank, you're flying, you are ticking the things off your list that you want to happen. At what point, because we know you when TOWIE's born. Yeah. So at what point does that slot in?
So TOWIE, I was around 18 when we was asked to do the pilot, the original pilot for the show. So I was working.
And how are you found? Like, how does that...
Right, so there is a story behind this, which is the truth. There's so many different stories, but this is the truth.
We like the truth here.
Yeah. I was like I am one of the original cast members of...
Well, when I think TOWIE, I think you, I think Gemma Collins, I think Amy Charles, I think your sister.
Mark Arge.
I think Mark Arge. Like, when and I'm now I don't really know or follow, but it's to me it's like the original band, isn't it?
It's like the OGs.
Yes, yeah.
So do you remember a guy called Brian Bellow who won Big Brother years ago?
Yes, I do.
So we all knew Brian because we were all from Essex, and we were all kind of like at that age where you're in the party scene, you're going to 195, you're going to New Bar and all these places.
Remember it well, girl.
Yeah, exactly. And we all kind of had like a friendship, like, and not everyone was like close friends, but it's just on that scene of that age group. And
almost like acquaintances, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And Brian, at the time, because Amy and I actually went to primary school together. So Amy and I had always kind of stayed close, and so did our parents. So Brian had this idea to do a TV show not dissimilar to The Hills. So at the time, there wasn't anything like it here in the UK. It was in the States.
I loved The Hills, by the way.
So that was like the first proper show of its kind. This kind of like... Anyway, so he said, I'm going to film a pilot. By the way, this pilot is still available to watch.
What? You shouldn't have told me that.
It is the most embarrassing.
You should not have told me that.
I've got this half head wig on.
I'm going to try and promise we're not going to include it in the trailer.
Honestly, I can't even... I have to tell you because, like you're saying, it's
You're
just being
excusing
honest.
yourself. Yeah. Don't worry. Listen, there's no judgment here.
Yeah.
Everything I've done since the age of 12 is available on Google somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
So listen, there's no judging
getting
here.
away. So Brian said, right, let's do a pilot for a reality TV show about me and my mates in Essex, blah, blah, blah. And so, to be honest, 70% of the people on this Brian Bello original pilot made it to the actual show in the beginning.
Yes.
Anyway, so we'd done this pilot, nothing to lose. We were all at Kirk's house at the time. He's the one that had the big house.
Right.
We all used his house to do like the pilot. Done that, watched it. It is on YouTube. It's super embarrassing. Nothing happened. So Brian went round to all the channels.
So he's almost pitching this out.
Yeah.
Right.
So Brian went round to all the channels. I've got this show. I've got this cast. We want to do a reality TV show like The Hills. Nothing. A year later, I got a phone call from a lady who was from ITV Production, and she was like, "I've just seen a pilot. Can we get you into the office? We are looking to do a TV show based in your area." I was like, "Great, yeah, let's do this." Anyway, we filmed a fresh pilot. There was loads of people from Brian's original cast and also like extras. And actually, I think Brian was called in to do the pilot as well.
Right, okay.
Anyway, so that's kind of how it all began. And then we filmed this pilot. They went round the TV chat. So ultimately, it was kind of taken the...
Now this has come back
Yeah,
to me. I
so
feel
it
like
was-
I
it was
remember
Brian's
reading
idea.
something that he was very put out by this
Yes.
because his idea was
Yeah.
used and taken again.
Exactly.
In a different
Which
vein.
is the truth. And he
Yeah.
actually took them to court. I can't
Yeah,
remember
I
how
can-
much
I
he
can
settled for, but
remember
he ended
this
up getting
now.
quite a big payout because
they used his idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and TOWIE was an overnight success. And none of us knew that was going to happen. The minute that show went on air, it was like... It was insane. I mean, you were in a girl band, right? So we used to go to like PAs or sign-ins, and because it was a younger generation then, like these youngsters would like chase us down the street.
Yeah.
It was just mad.
And this was pre kind of social media being
Yes,
what it is
we had
now.
no Instagram.
It wasn't like when somebody now goes on Love Island and
Yeah.
you can expect to come out with 1 million followers.
Yes.
This was like no one knew what to
Nobody-
predict.
yeah,
you
we
like
did-
won a BAFTA. Like it was a whole thing.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like it was an overnight success that none of us kind of could ever imagine happening. Like getting packed and things. It was just well. And actually, what was quite good about it, I guess, in the early days, none of us had nothing to lose, so we gave it our all.
no
and I think-
expectation.
no expectation.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the first couple of years of that show was so good.
Isn't it always on those shows? I'm
Yeah.
like, I am such a TV binge. Like I will watch everything, especially when it started and I was like, I'm from Essex. This is mad. I'm like, oh my
Yes.
God, they're going into
Yeah,
the
yeah,
deli.
you
Like, for
recognise
me,
those
I was like, this
places.
is amazing. But nothing to me when it comes to those reality shows, and you'll
Yeah.
know this way better than me, but as a viewer, it doesn't ever hit like the first. I think Love Island's probably an exception to that rule because it was out so
Yes.
many years ago and they
Yeah.
rebranded it quite a few
course.
times and it still lands. But for me, those shows, the original cut, like that's what you watch it for, and you're like, are they in it?
Of course.
Oh, I've kind of lost interest a little bit.
And
now.
you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve because, like you were saying, back then as well, there was no Instagram. I think not TikTok, definitely not that. Twitter.
Yes,
It was a bit of Twitter.
maybe like MySpace or something. Remember
Yeah,
MySpace?
and there was a lot of like papers and like all the mags were kind of more tabloidy then. So now we have everything on our phone. So we didn't really have anything to lose and we just had a really great time. And I'd done the show for, I think, 3 years.
Yes.
And actually, that's when I first launched my first business. So me and my sister, my mum and my auntie at the time, was like, right, let's use this opportunity of being on
Absolutely.
TV. This is kind of where the first business kind of grew, began. And when you're on telly and you go, it's funny because back then everyone was like, where's that from? Where's this from? Where did you get that from? Obviously, like you say, there's no Instagram. And I was like rummaging around in my mum's wardrobe. Like I didn't really have money to like dress myself for TOWIE at the time. There was no money in it at all. Like, and so then we was like, let's do a shop. So we got a little shop on Brentwood High Street, called it Minnie's Boutique. That was my nickname when I was little. And we launched the shop on the show, and it was crazy. Like the whole of Brentwood High Street at the time, this is going back all these years, had to shut down because more than 4,000 people came to the shop opening. Gosh. Like it was insane. Like I just don't think that kind of stuff would happen now because of social media being so
such an influence and like an engaged audience because we're looking at TV, right? Much more than we do now, right? TV's kind of fallen off in the way of, you know, if you're committed and you've got that loyal following, of course they'll watch whatever you do. But it's so different now because we're, you know, there's so we can record a podcast and put it on YouTube, right? That wasn't a thing. How you're talking about this, that like this is like a natural move. That is so entrepreneurial to be like, let's take this moment and make hay where the sun shines. We don't know how long this is going to be here. Whose idea was that?
It was mine and my sister's. Well, I originally said maybe we should get a little shop and we can launch it on the show because it's a storyline. So I saw it more as a storyline than a business at the time.
Okay.
So we didn't know how well the shop would do, but we thought it'd be a great storyline. We love Brentwood High Street. It needs a boutique anyway. So let's just kind of like, let's see if it happens.
And did you or like your mum, aunt, or sister have any experience in like fashion buying or?
Nothing. So we was all down Commercial Road.
This is so, I love this.
Buying packs of clothes, thinking, I think that'll work. Or I'll wear that on the show and then that will sell. But then honestly, it was from the beginning, it was the first ever thing we'd ever done. So like my auntie was quite good at the time with like numbers and finance. So she was like, right, I'll do the banking side of things. Billy and I are obviously front of house and wearing the clothes and buying. And then my mum as well, she just oversee everything with us always. They're always just the three of us together. My mum actually still has Minnie's Boutique, but online. So the business is still going today. But my mum runs the whole business now. Gosh. So so it's still going all these years. We just don't have the boutique anymore. Like,
a lot of
in the high street.
Most things moved online in that way, right?
So I just and it was just amazing. It went for years. It went on that little boutique. We just used to buy in from like suppliers. We didn't have our own. At one point, we tried to go down the route of doing our own designs, but and this is where you start learning from your mistakes, right? Because our overheads were tiny because the shop was only small, and we got like a really great deal because we got it way before the high street started getting really busy.
Yes.
Then you kind of go into sourcing your own clothes and doing minimums and spending all this money and then not getting the return. And then we thought, nah, this isn't quite happening how we thought it would be.
Yeah.
So then that's when they decided to take it online, and then I stepped away from the company and then was working on all different projects, and I started filming my own TV show called The Baby Diaries when I fell pregnant. And then we done the Mummy Diaries for like, I don't know, about 6 years. My sister's done it a bit longer than me. So then from TOWIE, there was a little gap. Then there was more reality that for years, that was tough with the kids.
Yeah, I was going to say it's quite... Because then your life changes, right? When it's you and it's like the storyline is the clothing boutique and you're in control of that. And, but then when you open it up, I suppose, as you grow as a person and then with that becomes relationships and family and everyone having to be on the same page of whether filming works for you anymore. And the one thing you can't control in front of a camera is a child.
Is your kids. And I remember actually because I met Paul and I fell pregnant. It was like a bit of a whirlwind, Paul and I, because I fell pregnant about 6 months after meeting him. And I said to my business manager, I was like, right, should I pitch a show? Because at this time as well, there wasn't really any baby shows.
Yes.
So I was like, should we pitch a show on like kind of like becoming a mum and being pregnant and like, you know, the highs and the lows. And that is where the whole kind of show was born. So I actually went in to pitch the show and I was pregnant. I was like, mate, I wasn't full term, but I had like a little bump. And they was like, okay, we'll give it a go. So we done a one-off. It was just a one-off called The Baby Diaries at the time.
Right.
And it was really successful. And then we got a series. And then the series went on for 7 or 8 years.
Gosh.
Yeah. So it was a huge success. And I look back now and it was like, and obviously, even on that show, I had multiple other businesses before Revive Collagen. So we had a clothing brand called Orbits London, and then another brand called St. Avenue, all more fashion based.
Right.
And it was kind of doing the same, I guess, like format I'd done with TOWIE. It was like, right, let's launch a business on the show. We've got this
and that's
platform.
what you know, right?
Yeah.
You know it works. You've got another show.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
and
stick to what we know performs.
And that's it. And then actually, it didn't really go as well for me this time. And I feel like, and this is what's great, because I think when you, like in business, sometimes I think you can get really deflated and you can feel a little bit like when something for the first time hasn't gone how you expected it to be. And the success of Revive Collagen has definitely come from all of those kind of ups and downs that I've had over the years. Like we put quite a bit of money into our own clothing brand, and we had launched it on the Mummy Diaries at the time, and we barely broke even, you know, and it wasn't the right thing. It wasn't. Something didn't execute right there, and we learned from all those mistakes. We'd got this big office, this big distribution. Our overheads were massive. You know, we just wasn't making the profit. We was barely breaking even each month, and like myself, John, and even Paul at the time that was involved, we was barely getting a wage. Everybody else was getting the money, and we was like, we're doing all this work,
Something's gone wrong here,
and we're not even taking a wage. So. But it was great. At the time, it's not. But now I think, wow, we learn, like John and I, since launching Revive Collagen, we learned so much from those two fashion brands.
And we talk about this so much on this podcast. And I think it's something that as women, we do quite poorly because rather than at the time, you're like, I've messed this thing up. This thing's not working for me. Rather than seeing it as a separate entity. I haven't failed or I haven't failed it. Guess what? We tried something and that hasn't worked out. But because it hasn't worked out, I know now what I'm not going to do. Yeah. And every single founder has that in common. And that story and that moment that they're like, this failure is actually a lesson. And actually, probably, if someone's just followed you now, they would see Revive Collagen and see the boom, but not know about any of the prehistoric mistakes, failed businesses, failed ventures that actually have been lessons in order for this to shine the way it has. And not for you, for the whole team. If you're working with the same people, you learn as you grow, and you can't grow without those moments.
Exactly. And I also think a lot of hunger comes from if you were kind of brought up as well, and you know that there's things that you want. It sort of sends back to me wanting that car and things. I think like, you know that you have to make it work for you. And if you're not just being like, you know, fed it on a spoon and just giving it to you, you kind of work a little bit harder.
You've got to go out and make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. So we was filming the Mummy Diaries, and I had my second, so it was Rosie at the time. And it was getting to the point for me where it was just all becoming too much, like filming with the children. Like, it was amazing. I feel like made so many great memories. The kids have got this home movie, which you could never buy, you know. It's but things were just getting a little bit too much for me to be filming. I think little Paul was starting school and scheduling. Do you know, you just feel like you naturally, something sort of like, you feel like, right, okay, I actually want to move on now to something.
This feels like this is drawing to a close a little bit.
Exactly that. And actually my sister continued the show for quite a few more years. Paul and I stepped back. We'd moved to Surrey at this point, and I just had Rosie. I had the most worst, and I never had acne growing up as a teenager. I was quite lucky. I always had quite good skin. I had postpartum acne, but like cystic, like really bad. And so basically, this is the story where kind of Revive Collagen was born.
Right.
So had really bad skin, was still kind of filming at the time because it was like a crossover between leaving and not. So I tried all of the expensive facials, diets, dermatologists, like you name it, I tried it and nothing was working. In fact, it was making it worse. You know, like sometimes now you know more about ingredients.
You're almost doing too much.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to find the cure.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually there's a beauty in actually doing less sometimes.
Exactly. And then I never used to really want to go outside. I felt really conscious. I used to cry. And I always remember once Paul and I was in the Maldives for mine and my son's birthday, and it's all across Christmas. And I didn't come out of the room for 2 days. I was like hysterically crying because I just hated the way. And I don't like wearing makeup on holiday. When you're at the beach or at the pool and your kids, you don't want to put foundation on. You don't want, and actually it makes always, I feel like, makes it look worse. And
also for you, there's kind of having something later on in life and you've not had it. You're like, oh my, it's that kind of shock of it all.
Yeah.
But actually, you're aware that you're in the public eye. You're front facing, and we are sort of told that we're supposed to look all things shiny and flawless, and there be that level of perfection because you're on a screen.
Yeah.
And having that and feeling like maybe people are looking at you.
Always. That's what you think. Everyone's looking. And when we used to film, like this was when we still filmed at the time, I used to go, right, I'm going to stand this side of the camera because one side would have been worse than the other. And it's like, it's really okay. And it was, but for me it wasn't.
No.
You know, it's definitely... So anyway, so I threw all the potions and lotions and all the appointments out the window, and I was like, there's got to be something for acne or postpartum, like whatever it is, skin, rosacea, whatever skin issue that you've got, that's not just topical or, you know, not just... And I think this is when I started researching more about gut health.
Right.
And I already knew quite a bit about gut health because I was diagnosed with Crohn's about 12 years ago. So I'm very into like homeopathic medicine and holistic and all that kind of stuff. I'm really into it. So then I started looking into, at the time, collagen. I never really looked into collagen as part of my diet.
Right.
This is like 5 years ago now. So, no, it wasn't. It was 6 years ago. 7, gosh, 6-ish years ago. And so I started taking supplements.
Right.
So when I first got there, I was like, right, creams, facials. But then I thought, no, right, let's scrap that. Let's try supplements.
Yes.
And I tried collagen powder, which is quite inconvenient. But over the space of about 6 to 8 weeks, I was using the powder collagen. I was taking vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, all these different supplements. And that's when I really got into it. And I was like, yes, it's working. I was like, my skin is getting better.
And could you instantly notice? Well, they say like 6 to 8 weeks is the time where you notice a supplement, right?
Exactly. But I would say after 2 weeks, I think because I just calmed down and reset and just went down a different route. And then I just started to see my skin calm down, the spots were disappearing, the marks were fading, because when you have acne, you get left with marks. I've still got some deeper ones I still have. So I called John, who's my business manager, also my agent. We've been together 10
Lifeline.
years. Yeah, we do everything together.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, and I was like, I've got a really good idea for a business. And I was like, I really want to do skincare, supplement. It needs to be collagen. I was like...
And let's talk about... So this is like 6.5 years ago. And this is now, that's quite an obvious route for people.
Yes.
Like now, the boom of collagen and...
Yeah, exactly.
And everything else in between, I feel like...
We got in there for early.
Exactly.
Not first, but early.
But what's interesting is it was the obvious thing, if we're going back 6 and a bit years ago, would be, why don't you have a fragrance? Or why don't you have another
I had a fragrance as well.
No, but that was like kind of the safe, if you're going to conform, that's the safest route. Going into collagen, I haven't seen another.
And also up until this point, the shops, the clothing, not as much, but, and you know how it is. I've done so much endorsements and like throughout the years been
sold everyone else's brands.
Yeah, sold everyone else's brands. You know, so much licensing. I still do have some licensing deals as well, which I love. But I wanted this for me. I wanted this to be my business, and as you know as well, like so much goes into it, and especially in the early days with the research. And so anyway, going back to calling John was like, right, yeah, let's do it. And we done extensive in, like, honestly, the research that we had to do, because we wanted, for us, it was about product. We was like, the product has to be perfect. It has to taste great. It has to do what it says on the tin. It needs to have loads more ingredients in it that there's nothing else on the market. It needs to be, for me, I was like, I'm fed up with mixing powders. I was like, it needs to be on the go, and it just needs to be...
And have that innovation, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because like you say, you're not going to do a like for like because you've tried a powder, but as much as the ingredients work in, there's things that you would change, right?
Yes.
If you were going to do this for you.
And like going back to when I was taking the powder and other supplements, I was like, right, why don't I just put all of this into one sachet? Is that possible? John, I was like, can we do this? And he was like... Well, we can speak to the lab. I'm sure we can. It took a lot of time to find the right people to make our product, and that was the first thing. And then after that came obviously packaging and marketing and stuff. So packaging is super luxurious, and we wanted that to be like really gorgeous as well, because you want women to kind of like enjoy taking their supplements each day. You know, like you line up 20 tablets; they're so hard to swallow. And
the experience of it all,
exactly.
Yeah.
But to start off with, it was just about us perfecting the product.
So you perfect this product, you're then really happy with this, which is, if this is something that you're doing and it's part of your routine, this is something that needs to be right. what then happens? Because as we touched on before, you're really ahead of this collagen curve that's now formed. Was it a difficult conversation? And I'm going to ask you this for so many different reasons, because this is something that I've had a little taste of. When you're first known as and I hate the word celebrity, but a celebrity, that kind of pivot and changing lanes and changing careers, it can be hard to be taken seriously in certain aspects. And like you say, and I've had this, when you license and you do that, and I still love licensing, and I do that with different brands, and it's fun, right? Because for us, it's zero risk. The goal is it sells out and they renew, right? I'm like, boom, you sell out yourself. It's a whole logistical pain.
Yes.
And that's something that I've learned along the way, because coming from that background, you think, oh, great, we've sold out. Woo, let's have a party. But actually, you know what that actually means.
Of course, yeah.
So when you first had this concept, you've got the support of John. John believes he's your number one.
Yeah.
You develop this thing. Was there a conversation of, okay, outwardly, when you're trying to push this business side of you, you've got something, and you have got something, because the success of it is, speaks for itself. Those conversations when you're in the room and you aren't normally seen in that vein, was there ever any kind of feeling from your side that people didn't take you seriously, or is that something that you ever noticed?
So when we first launched the brand, it was just on our own website to begin with. So John and I have fully invested all of our own money into it. And to this date, we've never took on external investment. We've always reinvested into the company. So we was just online. I only used to push it on my own socials in the early days, probably around the first year. But I wanted to build a brand that was a standalone brand, not just a Sam Faiers brand, purely because of what you're saying. I feel there's a real stigma around celebrities and beauty brands, and people just think that they stick their name on it and stuff like that. And I wanted this to be a brand that was built from like the customers that loved it. The product was what it says it is. So that's why the first launch, I was posting, and I still post now on my own page, but I was in like the first photo shoot, and I got my mum in to do the shoot. I was like, trying to save money left, right, and
use
centre.
what if there's no marketing budget,
you
that's
use
what you inherit by, you being part of the business.
Exactly.
Right?
And then as soon as, well, actually, the first 13 weeks of going live on our website, we made £1 million in sales, which was just insane. Like John and I never expected. We honestly, to this day now, we still can't believe that happened. So with that money,
so you're tracking this, right? The sales are coming in. So let's talk about this period of time. So launch day happens.
Yes.
And was it pretty instant? Were you like sat there, orders are coming in, and you're like?
So yeah, because what I done a video about kind of my story, kind of what I just told you then. And I always feel that when people can relate and resonate with you with something, and I think we're always looking for, a supplement or a product that's going to help us glow, or help. What it's like when you're a woman. You always want something for your hair or your skin.
Oh, listen, if someone tells me it's going to make me look younger and I'm going to glow and everything else in between,
exactly.
I've ordered 5. I'm going to be honest. That's me as a person.
Yeah, same. And so I just done this video, and it was just talking about that. And other than that, there wasn't really any other marketing behind it. We got the packaging. John and I was really specific with the packaging. We wanted it to be amazing, and it was. And we spent a lot of money on it, more than what we probably wanted to. The business was obviously from our own savings anyway. I'd actually sold my house in Hertford, Essex, and we was renting, and I used the money from my house sale to fund this business. Wow. So it was a huge risk, huge risk. But I can't tell you how much I believed in it and how much I knew it was going to be a success. It was like this fire in my tummy, and I just knew that we had something great. So that was the first launch, and then it was like, wow, this is doing amazing. This was just the website. And like the sales were just coming in, and it made us think, we've done the right product at the right time, like ahead of the curve. And not only that as well, then the customer reviews were coming in, and that's what we wanted. We wanted real customer reviews, and then that was kind of our marketing tool, having our real customers and how they found the product, how it tasted, because up until this point there wasn't really anything similar to ours that tasted great and had all the other vitamins in it. So then with that first chunk of money, obviously we reinvested it straight into the company, and then we took on our first UK ambassador, who's still our ambassador today, and that's Amanda Holden.
Yes, yeah.
So this is where we said, right, this is why I want this to be a standalone brand. We need to use voices and faces that aren't just me. I do it on my own page the whole time, all the time.
You're always getting, it's like me with My Little Coco, right?
Yeah.
You're always going to do that. You believe in it.
Always.
It's your baby.
Course.
That is, yes.
But now I'm in no marketing campaigns. I'm in none of the photo shoots. I'm not on the website. Like, there's a little video of me, but I'm not, across any of it, because I want it to be standalone. And we brought on Amanda Holden for that reason, who's been incredible. She's still with us today. And in the US, for a period of time, we used Chris Appleton.
Yes.
Which was great. And it's just about kind of using different voices and people and experts. Like, we use experts. So when we launched our menopause, we had a menopause expert. When we launched Mushroom, we had a neuroscientist. And that's how I want it to carry on, because you're right. No matter what happens, there's always going to be a stigma with a celebrity and a brand. And I don't care what anyone says. That's just how it goes.
I mean, the great thing that comes with success, and you can say this through the lens of success, actually the numbers speak for themselves. Now, just for 4 years, you've generated over £28 million in revenue. If you don't want to take you seriously, you've got to be nuts. Do you know what I mean? So I think you're at a point where you don't have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Does that feel quite liberating?
Yeah. It's great. I love it. And you know what's really fun? Sometimes, like, even a friend of mine, which is actually quite close to me, said to me a few weeks ago, I didn't know Revive was your brand. I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, what do you mean? But I don't mind it anymore, because that, to me, I was like, actually, that means that, it is a standalone brand. You didn't realise that I even own that brand. You thought I was just posting about it.
And that is your definition of success.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what you strive for. And if somebody can be close to you and separate the two, the brand is singing by itself without having to rely on you.
And also it's quite a funny story. I was in Mallorca a couple of years ago, and this lady tapped me on the shoulder. So embarrassing. Like, if someone taps you and smiles, you don't know who they are, you think they might ask for a photo. So I was just like, hi. And she was like, are you the founder of Revive Collagen? And honestly, it probably was like one of the best moments yet. And I was like, yes, I am. She was like, me and my mum love your product. And we was just chatting for a bit. And I walked away and I went, we won't believe that. I went, I only thought she wanted a picture. She recognised me off the telly. I went, she recognised me from being the founder of Revive Collagen. She didn't even mention TV, nothing. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, this is kind of how I wanted it. This is how I aspired it to be.
And that's when the dial is turning, right? And actually that people are recognising what you're doing now, and that's speaking for itself, as opposed to being a face.
It's so exciting when people say that they take your brand and they love it, or my mum loves
it's
your
the best compliment you can ever get in the world.
Isn't it? Like, or
I use this and it really works.
Yeah. It could be the most random people sometimes, and you're like, really? John and I was just in Barcelona at this event, and this guy was like, love the brand. He just like tapped us, was like, because we got our name badges on, it was like, love the brand, guys. And me and John was like, after. It's so random now that people out of nowhere like know your brand.
They're the pinch me moments.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how you handle growth in such a small space of time, because as you said, you do £1 million worth of sales in
13 weeks. First 13 weeks.
In the first 13 weeks. You're now stocked in over 4,000 retail outlets globally. I'm just reading these stats here. They're so incredible. The brand has sold more than 25 million doses and continues to grow, with one box sold every 60 seconds worldwide.
Yeah.
You expanded into retailers within the first year. You were obviously D2C. Quite a few stores to kind of grow so quickly. And we, on this show, we talk to founders from the, likes of Joe Malone to somebody that has literally just started out their business and they're hoping for that growth. Scaling and handling that as a team when it's just you and John. Yeah. When did you first start to onboard outside help? Like, when did you say, okay, we can grow this team really confidently now? And what was your first hire?
So our first hire, and you're so right, like even when that sounds great, having, £1 million worth of sales in 13 weeks was actually, for John and I, the biggest headaches. We was like, oh no, because we've got now
Where's the rest of
customers
the
that
stock?
are subscribed to our website and we can't fulfill that. So it was actually, we was begging like the labs and our suppliers, like you need to like stop everything else that you're doing.
Yeah.
You need to help. It was really tough
Yes.
because although it's fantastic and you've now actually got this money to give them to get, but it's making the product. It's like, then you kind of,
and the danger is losing that customer.
yeah, exactly. So, and then now we're fine now because we've got all these people that are helping us. But our first hire, and I'll never forget the call because John called me and was like, obviously we're expanding and stuff. He was like, there's a lady called Sarah Power. She is the GM of L'Oreal UK and Ireland. She's been there over a decade or almost a decade. Should we take her on? And for us, like John and I are barely taking a wage. Every single penny was plummeting back into the company, you know, and just to grow the business, really. And so it was actually quite a serious conversation that we had because it's a big wage, you know, and it's a package as well. It's not just a wage when you hire someone so big like that. And I remember I took a breath because I was thinking, oh, that's eye-watering. And I went, let's do it. And never look back. Like, she's still with us now, been absolutely amazing. And, you know.
It's so interesting because it's like a sort of, there's a pattern here. You are at the points where you think, should we risk it?
Yeah.
And those risks are really paying off.
Yeah.
But it goes down to that belief and that passion that you feel. You know, you sell a house. The smart move at the time is maybe to put those funds into a new house for you and your family. But you believe in it that much. And I spoke to Trini, actually. And Trini, when she launched Trini London, did a closed sale in her own house.
Yeah.
And she sold her house and rented somewhere to help the start of her business. And I kind of really recognise that in you, but having that belief and kind of risking it all for something.
Really risk taker over here.
Yeah, no, but I think it's paying off, and you've got to that point where you've had those lessons that it's really working in your favour. How big is the team now?
We are at 15 people now, but we are about to roll out in the US this year into 5,000 more stores, which is really scary.
It's incredible, though.
So really exciting, but it's quite scary. So we're actually now in the process of building out our team in the US as well. So the team is just going to double, if not more than double, by the end of this year. So that's John's department. I oversee, like, you know, the final Zooms. And we do. So John kind of whittles it down. And also remember, when you're hiring these kind of real big names that have been in the industry for a very long time, you actually have to like fight a little bit with them because they've got loads of offers on the table.
Of course, yes.
So it's not just like, oh, we take our pick. We want that person from L'Oreal. We want X Tom Ford. Like, you actually have to kind of, you know, and the success shows itself. But I think what happens is they want to make their own mark in your business as well. And I think that's what's great about Revive Collagen is that we're such a lovely community. Like, we look, John and I really look after our whole team, and it's kind of like we want everybody to make their own decisions in their areas in our business.
You don't want to micromanage.
Exactly.
You want them to flourish and bring their skill set to you.
Exactly. And I learn so much. I'm learning every day from my team. And, you know, it's just still, and like you were saying, we were both saying earlier, like, when you own a business, you're still learning all the time, and you're always going to make mistakes, and nothing is perfect. Even before this podcast, John's calling me in the car. He's like, "You all right?" And I was like, "I'm fine." But I think he's fine because John could like talk forever about everything, and I was like, "It's fine. Like, don't worry." Like, but I said, "I'm not perfect, and I don't know the ins and outs of everything. You're not supposed to, and that's why you delegate different roles and jobs."
That's why we say that the team is the most crucial part.
Yeah.
You know, the team is everything.
Yeah.
Because if you were going to do it by yourself, and that's the important thing, to kind of know when to sort of
I'm not going to do
hand the
supply
reins
chain.
over.
That's not what I know. That's not what I've learned.
And that's not your strength. That's not your skill set to bring to this. And if you want it to flourish, you've got to hire smart, right?
Exactly.
What does your day-to-day role look like now?
So I'm not in the day-to-day running of the business. John and I speak 10 times a day. So technically I'm across like all the conversations. We're actually getting an office this year because up until like the next couple of months, everyone's remote. Although there's like meeting points, everyone
Yes.
meet up. But this year we're going to get an office because it's needed because the team's expanding.
Yeah.
But I'm across like every important decision, new product development, and marketing, social. I love social.
Yes.
That's a big part.
And
that
the
I love.
creative element, is that what
Creative.
really sort of gets...
Yeah, I love
Sort of
it.
that's your
Get
passion here.
excited. Like I'm always on the social calls and the marketing calls.
Mm-hmm.
I love those. But I'm not really on the finance calls. John will just like do an overview at the end of the week.
I mean, we're aligned there. We
Yeah.
are aligned. And I wouldn't take a call that I was going to sort of... I'd easily change the budget,
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Don't come to me with a budget because I'll just spend it all.
Exactly that. How different is this proposition to you? Because obviously I know that, like you said, you've done those licensing moments and you still do those, but this is something that you wanted for you. Does it, as amazing as it is, and we talk about the successes and the numbers and the volume and the expanding to the US and the team growing, does it, when things don't go right, because we know as much as lovely things can happen, people don't see, or you hope people don't see the bad, because you hope there's something that you can always sort out as you go. How do those moments affect you? Because I think as a founder, it becomes your life. It becomes another child of yours. How do you handle those moments, and does it really rock you?
We couldn't get any different personalities between John and I.
Right.
I'm so laid back and calm. He would be the more stressy one.
The one that's going to flap.
Yeah. And I'm always the more laid back one. We actually had a huge problem right before our mushroom. So we got a nootropics line that launched this year. Launched, and one of the machines broke.
Right.
So we wasn't sure whether or not we was going to be able to fulfill all of our retail orders for Holland & Barrett. And it was one of those moments where we was like, oh my God, what is, like, he called me and he was like, the machine has broke. So the machine's broke, the production line stopped. And it was like, this is,
There's nothing your hands are tied.
Yeah. And this is like hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of orders that it's just, and you have to meet all these kind of deadlines with retailers.
And of course, every retailer will have a different rebuild date and a different deadline that you
so
have to hit.
If we don't hit this deadline, we might not even be on the shelf. And then what are we going to do? Like, that was our, our launch was with our online and Holland & Barrett anyway, so that was, that was quite stressful. But I remember him calling me and I went, everything's going to be all right. That's probably the most annoying thing you could say ever. But
sometimes you have to hold on to that.
I went, you know what, like, look, we've got enough product on our website. We'll give them everything that we've got. So then we're still got
a presence on shelf.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're still keeping that relationship with Holland & Barrett. I was like, at the end of the day, like, what can we do? This is when something's completely out of your control and there's nothing you can do about it, like a broken massive machine in a factory, like, what are you supposed to do? It's so, I think I handle things quite well, to be honest. I don't.
But do you take it, like, do you need that time for you to kind of, like, can you remove yourself from it for a second?
Not really.
Mentally, because I can't. And that is one thing that I'd love
Yes.
to get better at. It's all consuming.
Yeah.
And then I will answer my phone all night, and I will because I can't until whatever it is. We've got to a point where I've processed it, or there's it levels out in some way.
Yeah.
It consumes me.
Yeah.
And I wish it didn't.
I think when you're so passionate about something, like you were saying, it's like having another child, and whoever your business partners might be that you talk to at the time, it just comes from a place of love, I think, and just like you just really want it to all be okay.
It's hard to be an off button, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it
hard.
really is. And when it is your own business as well, there is that passion there, and that's, I think, ultimately it comes down to.
Yes, and the emotion.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot, separating the emotion from business.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that when it's your baby, it's really hard to not...
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's reading a comment. If I saw a comment about me and somebody said, oh, I don't like what she's got on today. I couldn't care less. I promise you I couldn't care less. But if somebody said...
Say something about my product.
that would that rocks me. And I think it's so interesting. And that's how you know that you've got that feeling and love for it and that passion that it becomes your child. I wish it didn't. I wish there was an off button sometimes, but it's all consuming. It is. I want to talk to you about giving back because with having success and having a platform and a brand that is thriving in the way that it does, giving back is always such a big part of that. And if you can, that feels like almost the biggest success of all. Talk to me about the initiative that you've got with Vitamin Angels, because I've never heard of anything like this before.
So this is for me kind of like the heart of the business, and it's not kind of spoken about maybe as much as it should be, because we partnered up with Vitamin Angels about a year and a half ago. So we have a program with them. So every single box of Revive Collagen that's sold, we give a 6-month supply of vitamins and minerals to mothers and children across the world. So basically, like the most preventable cause of child death is malnutrition. So a 6-month supply of vitamins could be the reason between life and death for a mum so basically the vitamins are from when they're pregnant through to the children up until they're like, I don't know, up to they're 18. So we're on track to have supplied 1 million mums and children this year. So we've done around 660,000. And John, my business partner, went out to Sierra Leone to see on the ground what difference we're making. And for me, it probably is the most rewarding part of this business.
Absolutely.
So, and it's just like, it's incredible. When you speak, we speak to them all the time, the guys, it's a US-based charity. We speak to them all the time, and we're their biggest donor in the UK. So
it's so incredible, and I've until you mentioned this, I didn't know about that
it's a huge
initiative and that the charity that does such incredible work. And how rewarding for you to know that great. Yes, you've got this amazing business that's growing and scaling, but to be able to hit and be on track to hit 1 million mums
and babies is
just
it's incredible. We're really proud of that.
You should be. Yeah. You should be. I want to do our rocket round now.
Yeah, great.
Which is our quick fire.
Okay.
And the first question is, what do you think are the non-negotiables for launching a business?
I want to go back to building out the team that works for you. I always think that, like you can have this great idea, you can have the funds behind it, and you can have that drive to kind of launch it. But I think when you get to a certain point, your non-negotiable should be you can't do it all. You need to bring in people that can support you here to help build your brand and your business. And don't be ashamed to say that you can't do it all, because you can't. It's impossible. Yes. And that for me was the first thing John and I done was then when we knew we was getting to a point of success, we need to hire in the perfect team now to help us grow.
And you're right, it can be quite a hard thing for a lot of people, because actually it's that when it is your baby and you're worried that somebody would look after it in the same way as you, but actually it's a hard thing to do, but it will repay itself 10 times over.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's not, I think lots of people might fail in the early days, because I don't think it's not because they haven't got a great idea. It's because they don't, you have to keep pushing, like keep going, and you might, because you could stop at the first hurdle.
Yeah.
And I sort of done that in the second 2 clothing lines that we done. Wasn't really making a profit, and it was like, but like you're saying, if you've got something that is really good and your idea is great, and it might take you a bit longer to kind of, get your feet off the ground, but just don't stop.
Yeah, because you'll figure it out. And maybe for you with the other clothing brands before, yes, you could have pushed, but there was obviously that feeling that this idea wasn't
right.
It.
Yeah,
it's
it wasn't
not
it
yet.
Yeah,
because everything isn't aligned, and I don't feel that.
Yes,
burn.
there wasn't that.
Yes, and that fire that you can't put out. Yeah, that's the thing to act on.
Yeah.
When did you first realise that you truly launched?
I mean, we spoke about the first 13 weeks, and that was fantastic. But I think for me was when we secured I think it was 675 stores of Holland & Barrett, and then in the same month, just over 1,000 boot stores. that to me was like, I can't believe we're going to see our products in Holland and Barrett and Boots, like on the shelves and online. That was kind of my moment, I think.
Because I suppose at that point, you really believe in it, your team believe in it, you can see those kind of e-com sales really performing. But then when a retailer goes, yeah, we want that because you're like, okay, it must have landed.
Yeah, and it was so exciting. And I remember getting a phone call from John and Sarah, and we had a Zoom, and I think it was the first 3 weeks it was in Boots, and we was the biggest selling wellness supplement across all Boots stores. And it was like, no, really? There's always other brands that you love and know, right? So
we're outselling them.
Yeah, I was like, really? So yeah, that to me it will always stick with me.
Pinch me.
Yeah.
The pinch me moment. What's the first thing you do when you wake up and the last thing you do before you go to bed?
And this is anything.
Yeah.
I either wake up next to Edward or Rosie because we
Foot in your face.
We are musical beds. My alarm goes off at 6 a.m. First thing I do is open the blind. And whether it's Edward or Rosie, I'll give them a little kiss and I'll be like, good morning. Rosie's the one. She could be like the growler in the morning.
Oh, really?
So I go, good morning, princess.
Ready for
And I'm waiting for yeah. So, yeah, that's what I do first. Then straight downstairs, put the kettle on.
That's it. And last thing before you go to bed?
Why don't I know this? What do I do?
I mean, it's a random one.
It is actually. Last night I made myself like a hot cacao, like with the milk. And then I took myself to bed really early, about 8:30.
See, to me, you're laughing, but there's no
And I went,
judgment here. I'm like, it goes to 8 o'clock and I'm like, I really want the kids to sleep so I can go. Like, can you just go to bed, please? Because I really want to.
Mine weren't asleep. I took myself to the spare room because I had this today. I was like, I need a clear mind tomorrow.
Yes.
So I took myself into the spare room with my hot cocoa and
What's
my phone.
happened?
And my phone.
What has happened to the party girls?
I know.
That's a thing of the past. One piece of advice that you wish you hadn't listened to?
I don't know really. Like going back to what you said earlier, I never really had many kind of like entrepreneurial people around me growing up. I think there was obviously close friends and family that had said, you can't put all those savings into this business. You don't know anything about skincare or e-commerce or health and wellness. That came up a lot and I ignored everyone.
Well, it's good for you because you didn't listen to it anyway.
I didn't listen to anyone. So, I just, like you were saying, if you really do know that something's going to be right for you, everything kind of, I just completely ignored everyone.
But I think that's a testament to you and your character because some people really do let outside noise in and kind of let that stop them making certain decisions. So that's credit to you. What's a skill that you'd love to learn?
Can this be anything?
Anything. I always think, like, for me, in terms of business, I would love to learn graphics and graphic design. But the problem is if I learned it, I'd be dangerous and I'd never sleep. Like, it's the thing that I'm like, I try to articulate what I want. And, we've worked with the same designer for a really long time, so they understand what's in my head now. But if I knew how to do it, I'd be up all night.
That's interesting because I'm quite techie. I love things like that. I've actually always loved photography. I've never done a proper photography course.
Oh,
I've got all the gear. I've got the cameras, lights, the newest camera that might come out. I'll put my name down on that list. I just don't really know how to use them.
All the gear, no idea.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I stick it on auto. But I was always that girl in the club that had the Sony.
Camera.
That was me.
That was me. Yeah.
So, and it's always been a passion. I love photography.
Do it.
So one day, because at the moment I'm filming for a new TV show as well at the moment, and the business and the kids. When things calm down a little bit, I really want to learn
You should do that for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That thing that isn't work, but is something that will fill you up.
I just want to know how to use all this
and you
equipment
can put
I've
it to
got.
work.
Yeah, exactly.
Too.
I'll do the shoots.
There you go. There's every photographer that you ever work with is like, please don't.
Yeah.
Don't put us out of the job. What's one thing that you wish someone had told you before you started this business? Like, is there something that you've learned along the way that you're like, if only I knew that before, I could have saved a lot of time or a lot of misery?
To this day now, I wish I knew more about finance.
Right.
I've got to be honest. Paul is my finance guy in my head, and so is John.
Right.
And no matter how much they tell me, or no matter how many meetings I sit in, something doesn't click in my brain. And it's funny because I worked in the bank, so I was with numbers. But I just wish that, like my kids growing up now, like as soon as they're old enough to kind of understand a little bit, I want to teach them about tax and finance and budgets and things, because that is a key thing that everybody should know about in life.
It's
and I
so
think it should
true.
be taught young, really young.
And I think you're either programmed that way naturally or
Yes.
you're not. Like, I'm with
Yeah.
you. We had a big numbers meeting here yesterday, and I can feel myself zoning out,
Dwindling away.
and I'm like, "Ooh, what do
doodle-doo.
I need to-" and because I know everyone else is listening, and I'm almost, it's terrible because I sort of rely on that,
Yeah.
but I sort of glass over
Same.
a little bit, and I wish I didn't. But then in the creative meeting and everything
Yeah,
else, when
oh,
someone
we're all
else
in.
that's numbers would glass over, I'm like, guys,
Yes.
what do you think about this? But I think, and that's why you have a team.
Yeah, exactly.
But we need to get a little bit better.
yeah, we
just
do.
to make
we
sure
do.
we're across everything.
Absolutely.
What would be your dream collab for your brand?
So actually, we're looking to take on a US ambassador over the next year or two. I would, I want someone really iconic. Like, for me, it'd be great to have someone like Julia Roberts. Like in
Oh
my
my gosh.
mind, I just picture the scene in Pretty Woman when she's in the limo or down the stairs, and I just think with a sachet in hand.
Oh my god!
I mean, that is
Could you imagine?
so out there. I know it is.
But listen, you're like a master manifestor.
So,
you
yeah.
put these things out there, and
yeah,
you work
I just
towards them.
want someone really iconic like that. Would be amazing.
That'd be one way to be like, we've really landed America.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we
Julia
are.
Roberts.
Exactly that.
Pretty
Oh my
Woman.
gosh, that would be incredible. If you could choose one female figure as a mentor, past or present,
Okay.
who would that be?
You might be familiar with her, Sarah Blakely.
Yes. Yeah.
So I followed her for quite a while now, and so she's the founder of
Spanx.
Spanx. I was going to say Skims then. Spanx. And on her profile, I just find her energy really good.
Yes.
So I was thinking, if she was my mentor, I would really get on with her.
You'd feel unstoppable. I
Yeah.
feel like she's got that thing, and you're not the first person to say this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is, I think she's got that.
She
thing.
should do some sort of program then,
Yes,
because we all want her.
masterclass. We all
Yeah.
sign up. Yeah, it's so true. And I think but then I suppose you can see a lot of yourself in her, because having that kind of those balls, if you know, for want of a better term, to launch something like shapewear in that
Yes.
space,
Yeah.
can only have inspired brands to do it, but do it differently
Yeah.
after the fact. You know, like you see Skims, and
Yes.
but she started a whole movement that.
Yeah.
Embrace the Bridget Jones pants, you know.
And I just think that, when it's somebody like that it just feels so approachable and doesn't feel like that they're a million miles away from something you could ever kind of chat to
Yes.
or learn from. I just think that she's great, and she's her own success story in herself, being like, a self-made billionaire as a female. So I'd love her to be my mentor.
And
So
to pick
if she's
her brain.
available.
There you go. Please call me.
Yeah.
Every episode, I ask our guests to leave a tip.
Okay.
So one sort of tangible piece of advice to a lady looking to launch, and maybe launching in a similar space. So maybe if it's in like the supplement vein or that wellness vein, or someone, I like each guest to be tangible. Say if someone's like, I love what Sam's done, I'd love to have a moment of that kind of success. What's a good bit of advice that you'd like to leave?
I think, people might not agree this is a tip, but I think if you're helping somebody and it's like, you're solving a problem. And I think, like, as women, we're always looking, whether it's, I don't know, your feet hurt on a night out, or it's your skin or your hair or clothes, or I don't know, it could be a polish without any chemicals in it. I don't know, whatever it might be. I think if you're solving a problem and you're listening to your customers, I think that you can never really go wrong. And I feel like that, you know, I always listen to our customers. I love reading our customer reviews. I think that if you don't have like money to start off your company, because not many of us do have, you know, a chunk of money to launch your business, start small, but use your people, use your community.
Yes.
And like, I always feel like that's where your business grows, because that comes from trust. And I think when you've got trust in like your customers and people, I think that just is word of mouth and will just spiral and you'll be amazing.
It's so true, because we talk about like the best things in the world to start from a self-indulgent place, right? Because, and like, I suppose you're the definition of that. You've noticed that you tried collagen, you tried everything else for your skin, and that was the thing that really worked. And then Revive Collagen's born out of something that is solving a problem.
Yes.
But if you feel it, there's going to be somebody else that is in that same space, and it might feel self-indulgent, or do you think that people will like this, or do you think, and I had it with My Little Cocoa and the curling custard, and that was the product that when we were talking to retailers that they would rather have lost, and they liked the idea of having a baby brand that was backed by me, and I was very passionate about it not being like Baby Skin by Rochelle Humes.
Yes.
It was that it was going to be the same, its own
Standalone,
entity, and to live on by itself. But actually that was the product that people were like, we get it, but this one might not work. But that was the reason that the line was born, right? Because I wanted a great product for curls.
Absolutely.
And the fact that I needed it, it meant that a lot of other people did.
Because they trust you.
Exactly that.
Because your audience trusts you. And I think that's like, as a tip, I think that's where you should start.
Yes.
Like,
and not feeling that silly, or it's something that you might think is a good idea.
Yeah.
Really hone into that. And it was Jo Malone that does this thing that she calls the pizza boardroom, which I think is so interesting. And what she says is that actually it goes to your point, when you first start, you don't have the funds, you've not got a board, you've not got a team of advisors, but actually you've got a circle. And whether that's a friend, sometimes we do things so kind of insular that actually you've got a board of people around you, but you're just not asking them. So she says, buy a couple of pizzas, get a bottle of wine, get some people over that you love, and that you take advice from, you know, if they were buying a skincare product, you'd take their kind of advice and ask them a few questions and do a bit of research with people. I'm like, it's genius. So she calls it a pizza boardroom, and you kind of would find out so many, or, you know, oh no, I wouldn't like that component, I would like it in a tub, or I would like that. You can find out so much with people around you, but we're often not brave enough to ask.
And it's funny you say that, actually, because we've got a new product launching towards the end of this year, and the taste, when it comes down to the taste, you could imagine John and I, so I say one thing, he says another, so I'm like, we can't do this.
It's so personal, isn't it?
It's so personal. So now we not outsource it, we get everybody in the room, and then we get everyone just to like mark it down, which we know that first, and we let them decide now. I said, because it's not, this needs to be taken out of our control, because we need to bring in our people and trust them, because that's going to be our customer.
Yes.
So
You got your own pizza boardroom. And then lastly, because I love talking about women who have launched, hence the whole reason for this podcast, but I'm also obsessed with food. And I like to know how everybody spends their lunch hour.
Okay.
So on a typical day, if you're all meeting up and you're working together, I know that you work remotely a lot, but on a typical day of working for and with Revive Collagen, what does your lunch hour look like? Where are you? How do you spend it? And what are you eating?
So I have to do two, because I spend a lot of time in my home office on my own. So I usually, after the school one, would do more of a brunchy type. I love eggs, and I've got chickens now, so I've got my own eggs.
I've seen this. I've got so many chicken questions. That could be for a different episode, but I've got so many questions.
Oh, the chickens are amazing. They're really sociable. So I've got my eggs now, fresh eggs every day. So I always do either an omelette. I love spice, so I always do like chop a little chili up. I like any kind of salad, lemon dressing. I love flavours in all my food. So always egg-based at home.
Right.
If we're out or in London and we've got the team together, John, my business partner, has got quite the expensive palate.
Okay, tell me.
No, I'm joking.
Caviar for lunch?
Well, we don't always do this, but we do love like Japanese food.
Oh, yes.
It's not all the time.
It's a good team treat, though.
But we often like to do a team meal, like Zuma,
Yeah.
And that sounds
You
really
can say it
pretentious.
here, there's no judgment.
But that's not all the time. But when we get our office in London in a few weeks, it's not going to be Zuma every day. I know that.
You'll be bringing your eggs in from home,
Yeah,
girl.
I'll be bringing my own
That
salad in.
Tupperware's coming in.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
if
it.
you're treating the team, it's like that pan-Asian Zuma-y kind of vibe.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you're
At
quite
home.
eggy at home.
Yeah, I am, exactly. I should have bought some for you. I can't believe it.
Stink out the office for
Yeah.
me. I've loved this, talking to you. Thank you so much. It's so nice to hear. And as I said, I've seen your success from afar and have really sort of looked on and thought, do you know what? She's absolutely killing it. So
Thanks
for
I had an
sharing
amazing
everything
time.
and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well domination for you, girl.
Thank you.
Don't forget to follow us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you don't miss out, because next time we're going to be talking to another incredible lady who launched. If, like me, you're a watcher, then don't forget to follow us on YouTube, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.